It does more than blow houses down, right, Daphne? Sabrina said. The little girl nodded. It cures the mentally insane. Maybe you should turn it on yourself, 'cause you sound crazy, Puck replied. Sabrina was about to roll her eyes, but she caught herself. She looked to Daphne for permission to continue explaining. The little girl nodded again. Let me start from the very beginning. We know from the story of Red Riding Hood that her mother sent her into the forest with a basket of food to deliver to her grandmother. That part of the story has always been a little odd. Who sends a child into the woods where wild animals live? That is not good parenting. Good point, Uncle Jake said. We think Mr. Hatchet told us the reason, though I doubt he meant to. The truth is, Red's family was at their wits' end with her. Okay? They were desperate. They sent her to their grandmother's because they were hoping she could do something to help her. My mommy and daddy love me, Red said. They want you to get better, Sabrina said to the girl. Red nodded and hugged a stuffed doll with a missing head. Hatchet says Red's granny was a witch, and when he showed up, she was blowing a little flute that could manipulate the wind. Well, he got it wrong. It wasn't a flute. It was a kazoo. Daphne held it up for everyone to see. Sabrina continued. Red's grandmother either found the kazoo or created it herself. From Hatchet's version, it can control the wind. But we think it does more than that. The kazoo creates a wind that literally blows the insanity out of a person. When Hatchet and Canis stumbled upon the grandmother's house, they watched the witch blow the madness out of a rabid wolf. She bottled it up, but she wasn't doing this to heal a sick animal. She was testing the kazoo to make sure it worked before she tried it on her granddaughter. She was trying to fix Red, Granny marveled. Sabrina nodded. At least we think she was. Mr. Canis or Tobias Clay, or whatever his name was, just got in the way. He's trying to be a hero and save Red. He's the real hero woodcutter from the story, not Howard Hatchet. And you want to try this on Red? Hatchet told us it was dangerous. The menace from the rabbit wolf merged with Mr. Canis to become the big bad wolf, Uncle Jake said. What happens if Red's menace slips into one of us? The wolf paw of Canis is completely insane. Canis has never been able to fully control it. We have to be careful, Sabrina said. There was a knock at the door, and when the locks were all undone, it swung open. Nurse Red held a glass jar in her nervous hands. Here, she cried, and shoved it into Sabrina's hands and slammed the door tight. This jar will do the trick, I hope, Sabrina said. If the three pigs had had a jar when they beat the wolf and took the kazoo from him, we might have been rid of the monster for good. But they had no idea what the kazoo was capable of. They just thought it was how the wolf huffed and puffed his way around town. But when they turned it on him, the wolf was gone and Canis was left behind. The rabid wolf's insanity left Canis, allowing him to take control of his body, even when the insanity swirled back into him. But as we've been seeing, he wasn't that much in control, and he's slowly changing back. So, if we can trap Red's insanity in a jar, then she can tell what she remembers from that day? Robin asked. Sabrina nodded. The only chance of saving Canis is if an Ever After stands up for him. If we fix Red, she can do that for us. It doesn't hurt that she's in the Scarlet Hand, Uncle Jake added. Should I do it now? Daphne asked. Yes. When I turned it on the Black Knight, I concentrated on having the power affect him only. I think the wind will do what you ask it to, Sabrina encouraged her sister. Daphne raised the kazoo to her lips and blew. The wind blasted out of it, upending the doors, tea set, and anything else that wasn't nailed down. The people, however, seemed unfazed except for their hair flying around. Red Riding Hood glanced around her and started to laugh. "Bad weather!" she shrieked. "Very bad weather!" The wind swirled around her like a snake. It crept around every limb, embraced her tightly, then pulled back. Red cried out in pain as the group watched something horrible and black seep out of her. To call it a person would be wrong. It was more like an animal, with fangs and with eyes like bottomless pits. To Sabrina, it looked like some horribly mutated worm seeking revenge on a fisherman. It whipped around in midair, desperate to reach Red Riding Hood, but the wind kept it at bay. It shrieked angrily. "Now, Sabrina!" Granny cried. Sabrina opened the glass jar and reached out to the creature. It thrashed about as Daphne forced it into the jar. Once it was inside, Sabrina quickly tightened the lid and the wind vanished. She watched her sister look at the little kazoo and slip it back into her pocket. Then she turned to Red Riding Hood. The strange girl had collapsed to the ground and lay still. "She's hurt," Robin Hood said as she rushed to her side, but his concerns proved to be unwarranted. Red opened her eyes slowly and looked up into the face of Granny Rhoda. "Grandmother?" she asked. Sabrina's heart sank. She had been wrong. She believed they could really heal the girl, and that she in turn could save Mr. Canis, but Red was just as crazy as before. The weapon had not done what she had hoped it would. The door to the room flew open and slammed against the wall. Sabrina looked up and saw Bluebeard and Nottingham barging into the room, along with half a dozen cod soldiers armed with swords. "Sorry, Grimms," Nottingham said. "We have to take our witness to the trial." One of the cod soldiers dragged Red to her feet and pulled her from the room. "I do hope you had enough time to question her," Bluebeard said, "though I suspect you didn't get too many straight answers out of her." Nottingham and Bluebeard roared with laughter as they left the room. "See you in court," Bluebeard cried back over his shoulder. "The trial starts in 15 minutes. The family rushed to the courthouse and pushed their way through the crowd at the entrance. There were no seats left, and they were forced to stand in the back of the room. Mayor Hart made her way over to the family. She had a wicked grin on her face. Her crooked yellow teeth made Sabrina's stomach turn more than her mean-spirited comments. "Looks like today's the day we wrap this all up, Grimms. I suspect your wolf will meet the nooseman by this time tomorrow." Granny frowned as the woman walked away. "Isn't she a delight?" Judge Hatter entered the courtroom and made his way to the front where his desk once stood. Since he had smashed it with a sledgehammer the day before, it had been replaced with a stack of milk crates. He didn't seem to notice. The four spades called for order and announced the judge as he sat down. "Let's get started," Judge Hatter said. "We can't exactly get ended, can we?" "No, I suppose we can't." "Can we? Or is it, may we?" "We may." "No, we may not." "Mr. Bluebeard, do you have a new witness?" Bluebeard stood in front of his desk and surveyed the crowd. He had a smug look on his face and he beamed at everyone, including Sabrina and her family. "Indeed I do. In fact, she's our last witness. I call Little Red Riding Hood to the stand." The crowd fell silent as if their words were forcefully stuffed back into their mouths. The double doors in the back opened and a cod soldier escorted Red to the stand. He helped her into her seat and stood nearby, watching her closely. "Does the witness need to be watched?" Hatter asked. The cod soldier nodded. "This was especially dangerous. She's mentally deranged, sir." "Oh," Hatter said with delight. "How exciting! What does she do? eat people, push people out of windows, throw knives. All of the above, I believe. The judge clapped like a happy child. It's nice to not feel so alone. Bluebeard asked you a question. The lawyer approached the little girl, but even he kept a safe distance from her. When she looked up into his face, he smiled, but she sat there, stone-faced and gazing around as if lost in thought. Precious girl, Bluebeard started, you have been through so much. I hate to put you through any more, but we need to get to the truth. We have man on trial for his life, so I hope you'll be brave and answer some questions. Red continued gazing about. Sabrina had seen this expression before. The little lunatic was probably having another delusion. Shh. Red, we've already established that your parents sent you to see your grandmother and asked you to take a basket of food and medicine. Do you know why they sent you? Mama told me Granny was sick, Red said. Your grandmother was sick? How sad. Sierra went through the woods following a path to her house. When you got there, what do you see? A monster, Red said. Bluebeard smiled. Can you point out that monster? Without as much as a glance, Red pointed at Mr. Canis. Let the record show that the child pointed at the accused, the lawyer said, and turned his attention back to Red. Where was your grandmother when you arrived? The wolf ate her, Red said softly. That's terrible, Bluebeard said overdramatically. He looked as if he might burst into tears, but Sabrina knew he was acting. I'm sure you know this, but the story of what happened has been spread far and wide. In one version, you came into the house and found the wolf hiding in your grandmother's bed. Is that what happened? Red nodded. Why would he do that? Bluebeard asked. He wanted to trick me so he could eat me too, Red said. Luckily, a woodcutter came and saved your life, Bluebeard said as he turned to the jury. His face was pure confidence. No, that's not what happened. Bluebeard's face fell. He spun around to face Red once more. I'm sorry, child. Maybe you misunderstood what I said. I was talking about the brave woodcutter who saved your life. Red shook her head. I heard what you said. I said that isn't what happened. I found the woodcutter hiding in the fields. Then how did you escape the wolf? Bluebeard asked. Because he saved me from himself, Red said, pointing at Mr. Canis. The crowd broke into excited chatter. Hunter pounded a gavel down on the stack of milk crates. They collapsed before him. With nothing to pound on, he slammed the gavel into his own head. Order! The jury should be careful about what the witness says. She's mentally ill, Bluebeard said. Objection, Robin Hood cried. If her testimony can't be trusted, then why is she here? She's either telling the whole truth or telling a whole lie. Order, Hunter demanded, slamming his head against the wall. Mr. Bluebeard, do you have any more questions? Bluebeard looked frantic. No, sir. Judge Hunter, however, had some of his own. You say the creature who murdered your grandmother saved your life? Red nodded. My grandmother was trying to heal me. I've struggled with my sanity since I was a baby. She was a witch, and she had a plan, but it blew up around. That seems to be the end of this video. I'll send more later. Goodbye.